All right, it's 8 o'clock, let's call the finance committee meeting to order. Everyone's here except John Master. I don't know if he's coming or usually when he's not coming, he's called. We'll move on. I would entertain a motion to adopt the agenda and approve the minutes as published. Second by Steve, all in favor? Aye, opposed, hearing none, motion carried. Anyone here for public comment? Seeing none, we will move on to item 6, options on the tax fee parcel of Croc Road, which is the Paulson property. And Dave, you have any updates on that? Or I know they're negotiating with a private lender.
They are. So they managed to find a private lender that's interested in working this out. So they're in the process of figuring out whether or not they're able to make that work. So this time, I guess we can hope that that pans out and give them more time. They've been current on their payments. They haven't they've been paying those payments. Those are substantial. So those away a little bit longer.
Deal by the
Fingers crossed.
really.
Well, either way, we'll have it on the agenda.
Put it on the agenda. Sure. Any questions on Croc Road property? Sounds like things are moving forward on that. Ed asked if we could move number 10 up while Dave is here, considering the parcel in the city of Kewaunee.
Okay,
Take that, Ed.
sure. This is that parcel we talked about. What brought it to light was the city's charge per parcel for fire service. And what we find here, this is the 4.5 foot by 125 foot piece of land on the corner of Second and Ellis Street in the city of Kewaunee. It's just hanging out there since 1949, I believe, when the county took a tax fee for whatever reason on this parcel. We have tried to work this out with the landowner to just deed this partial piece, which he is occupying, driveway, whatever, but for whatever reason he won't accept it. I mean, we literally said, we will give this to you, we will take care of the paperwork, we'll get everything done, roll it into his main parcel so there's a clear title to everything, but he just can't see his way to say yes to that. So my recommendation, as much as I hate to see these kind of things languish, I'm just saying at this point it's not costing us anything. We'll just kind of let it go and fix it some other day. We do have, I guess, the option, and Dave, correct me if I'm wrong, just deeding the property to him, but I'm not of the opinion we should just force something on it. We could also deed it to the city of Kewaunee, but that would only do kicking the can down the road and letting them do it.
So when you say he's occupied, I don't recall exactly what that is. I mean, he's got driveway on county property.
That's what it does.
I mean, isn't there something legal we can? I don't know why the person wouldn't take it. What liability is there? Is there something that's
We're talking about 100th of an acre. We could set up a lemonade stand there on the summer weekend.
driveway? Okay. Always the finance guy.
So at this point, I would just say that I think we won't just walk away from it completely, but we're not going to ask you to make any decision on that.
Okay. Questions on that issue? Okay, let's go back to the agenda. Item 7, treasurer's update on taxi. Welcome, Bill.
Welcome. Okay, it's that time of the year again. So as we talk about the tax fees that we had last year, this is where we're sitting for this year. We started the year we're working on the 2019 taxes that haven't been paid. We started the year in January with about 49 of them that hadn't been paid. We got it down to 6. So what the process is going to be now is I'm giving you this update, and usually at the December county board meeting is when you decide if that's a parcel that we're going to want to take or not. And that's up to you. The first one on the list is at 511 Dodge Street. It is located behind Nelson and Sivert Chiropractor and between Janita Zimmerman, if you live in Kewaunee and know where that is. It used to be a house there. The city of Kewaunee raised it, and here was it. You'll be able to tell because there's a large, in 20, it went on the tax as a special charge for the raising costs, and I believe it was $10,900 of the taxes is due is actually owed to the city of Kewaunee because we don't pay out specials anymore. And to be honest with you, this is the reason why, so that we would not be on the hook for it. So bottom line is that house is no longer there. It's an empty lot. What I've included is obviously a picture of where it's located. Also the real estate tax that's due for all of the years, not including the 2023 one. And then also the latest tax bill. As you can see, there are no improvements on there. And that parcel is assessed at $6,800. I talked to, it is an LLC, so it was a little more difficult to get, but if the address is an indicator, it was that James Downey is taking care of is the attorney for this parcel. And I've contacted him and they are walking away from it. They do not want it. So
So
this
the
is
$10,000 you said that's owed to the city of
Mhm.
Kewaunee. So when the transfer would go through, this would go what to?
Kewaunee County would, if the county board decides to take it, Kewaunee County becomes the owner and it wipes out any taxes that are due.
Okay, so the
If-
city's just out.
Not necessarily. If we end up selling it, obviously what usually happens is the county recoups the taxes that are owed to them,
Okay.
and then we would pay off that special. Mhm. So that's where we're sitting on this one. So this one's on the table. This one, you get to choose if this is one that you're gonna wanna take, because they're not paying it. The next one on the list is Austin. This house is located on the corner of First and Bleach Street. He doesn't return my phone calls. He doesn't answer any of the letters I send him. So I'm not sure what his intent is on this parcel. You can see he doesn't owe us a lot of money for this year, and for anyone, all they have to do is pay the 2019 taxes, and they're off my list. And then they, if they're delinquent for that following year, you can see that the amount is very minimal. It's currently $76.98 and $125 for the publication and administration fees that we charge. Again, I've called him, I've left messages, I've sent and mail to him. He's been served by our sheriff's department, so he's aware, and for whatever reason, he is not contacting me back.
Is it the gentleman from the?
I believe so, yes. Yeah. So that one could be on the table. Again, I'm hoping that he will contact me. The next one is the neutral property. There's not going to be any information on these. These next ones are people that I believe have been in contact me, and they will be paying up by the end of the year. Neutrals, Quicks, and Witsapolics, the two there. We expect for them to pay. So that's where we stand. So first of all, Dodge is on 511 Dodge is on the table, and I'm hoping that Austin will get in contact with me and follow through on that, so we can get that taken care of. Okay, but just to give you a heads up on what's on the pipe.
Does Austin understand the consequences here? I mean, it's pretty severe for
Yeah.
the amount of money that's.
I know, exactly. Yeah, I've sent him letters explaining.
And
I was meeting with,
delivered-
they've been served. Yeah, he was served. Enough messages on his phone, and yeah, so I'll keep working on him, but yeah.
Is the house occupied?
So that's where we're sitting. Again, no action needs to be taken now. We'll come with a resolution, before finance at the, before the county board meeting. Okay. I won't be there, but, we'll get that. I'll be in contact with you and let you know exactly what's happening. Okay.
Some of these parcels have been on every year.
Yeah.
Every year, every year.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. You're getting 18% interest off.
So we're gonna need a finance committee meeting before the board on the deal.
Yeah, the 19th, the 19th, yeah. Okay. Any other questions?
Any discussion on these issues? Any recommendations?
From me?
No. Usually we end up taking them by resolution.
Mm-hmm, exactly, yeah,
Deal with them with it.
yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Any other questions for Michelle?
Okay.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it.
Mhm.
Okay, moving on, monthly administrative reports. Paul, or do you have anything on financial?
No, very little this time. Most of the budget issues were taken care of last month, so. As expected, no, there should be no more contingency requests. We have 35,007 left. Sales tax, we received 166,639 year to date, 1.305 million, up about 106,000 last year. And we have, 3 more payments coming in that will count towards this year. So we're, again, with Christmas coming up, we should be well ahead of the game. Spending goes down and that year's not being happening, spending is actually. As far as individual departments, that was taken care of last month. So there's nothing new and there's nothing outstanding since then. Auditors will be here for interim work next week. That's where they look at policies and procedures, processes, they test everything. When they come back in the spring, then they actually look at balances and statements. The budget adjustments we did last month, by the way, I haven't entered them yet, so if you're comparing this month, those aren't in there. And then last but not least, my payroll position is still open. So we've begun re-advertising. That's going to drag out a little bit. You're going to see some overtime for the finance department on the overtime report. Not as bad as I was anticipating, actually. But we can get through short term. If we don't get another person the second go around, I'm not sure what we're going to do. Honestly, I may consider looking stronger at, but we can't just get rid of a position then either. So I'm not sure we're any better off that way. But I'll definitely look at that. If we can't find a position to do it, then I'll consider that. Other than that, nothing for the finance reports. We did not receive the medical and dental reports just first of all. I was really surprised they're in my emails.
What is that position thing that you're not getting people applying for it?
It was 21-ish.
It is, in our scale, it's actually one of the higher rated clerical positions. What are the requirements for that? I mean, it's basically high school diploma know how to do the.
Yes, you gotta be able to do payroll. So payroll does not require a degree. 21, I did check $21 compared to other counties. It's a little hard to compare some of them because payroll for many of them is incorporated into their other accounts as standalone.
And that's a full-time position, but 40 hours a week.
Yeah, so why aren't we? Well, why do we have 6 people for highway? Why do we have a few for sheriff?
I mean, that position, it doesn't require weird hours or anything. I mean, it's.
No, actually, that's one of them that it's worked well to flex hours. So right now, actually for the last months even, with the addition of our kind of timekeeping system, that takes away a lot of the data entry requirements. We can have payroll done on one long Monday if you really want. Not sure it's a good idea to be working, 12 and 13, 14 hour days usually. But for holiday weeks, like we have coming up with Kewaunee, that works well. So it's not tied to anything other. Payroll Monday, you have to be here. The rest of it, kind of, as it needs to be. Why aren't we? The pay is okay. It's not terribly highly complicated stuff, but you have to want to be here.
Who doesn't want to do that? It's exciting stuff.
Backup payroll person. Well-rounded, I mean, completely balanced person, doesn't want to spend their day doing it.
It's hard to convey some of the things Paul just mentioned, the flexibility in hours and things like that in a job ad. So, until we get somebody in front of us and we can explain that in an interview process, but as Paul has alluded, it's just been difficult to get bodies that can meet up with the minimum requirements that you need to have to come in and do this kind of stuff. A lot of attention to detail that person has to be geared towards.
Yeah, you have to keep up with details. You have to be well organized. You have those two things, the rest is teachable. And again, we did have 6 or 8 applicants last time, 2 were working.
A trend as well.
Yeah.
Ed?
Any questions for Paul? I see nothing unusual in the overtime report. I'm just gonna touch on that, Ed, otherwise.
Yeah, overtime is, obviously the sheriff's department is the area where that drives the most, but again, we're looking at time there that will be recouped through the contracts that the sheriff's department has with doing the work with the municipality. We are over our budgeted, 237 versus 250 overtime amount, but again, I think a substantial portion of that will be reimbursed to us. When you look at just the jail division this last November period, under $1,000 of overtime, it's actually quite remarkable. And as each holiday comes in their department, there's just built-in mechanisms that cost us a little bit there. But again, for the whole month, for the whole organization, we had $10,000 worth of overtime. Highway is in good shape in that respect. So human services, some of the things that drive human services were we've been short staffed there and moving people around, and we're hoping to get caught up soon so that we're back with full strength. And that also drives some of that overtime in that area as well.
Any questions for Ed then? We'll move on to the 2024 insurance renewals. We have 3 of them in, and we're still waiting on a couple.
Actually, one came in
One
late
came in?
yesterday, not the one I wanted.
Oh,
So workers' comp actually has gone down, not because our payroll is going down, but a mod, which is reflective of how we actually went up 0.02. But in general, the workers' comp rates, as published across the state, have gone down. Liability, up a little bit from last year, not completely unexpected. Property is the one I really wish would have shown up before today. I don't know where that one's going to end up because valuations are going up. That doesn't necessarily mean our premium is going to go up, so I can't predict that one. Storage tank hasn't come in yet, but that one's been pretty close to 4,000 every year I've been here, except for those 2 years where we had some underground tanks that reached their end of life, and it shot up to $12,000, and then those tanks were replaced and went back down to 4. The crime policy, also called public employee market, exact same as last year. That's the one that just came in, so that wasn't in your packet. And then the position bond, which covers our elected officials, again, the exact same amount as last year. So we can approve, the ones we have. And then since we already have that meeting scheduled before the county board, I am going to push at least the property renewal to get here by that date, because they want these paid on January 1st. It's December 1st. They're usually here by the end of November. This year they're not. But if we have a meeting before the county board, I'm gonna absolutely love the property here. Storage tank, I'm not sure why it's not here either, but late last week I got a, like every worksheet to fill out, and that's at the end of November. It's really, really late. But, if we get the property before my board, I think we can do that in there and improve the rest of them that we have today. Nothing unusual. No coverage is changing. The premiums aren't really out of line last year.
The only thing we could look at is the deductible, currently at $10,000 for the liability plan, but I wouldn't,
We went through deductibles last year. Okay. That makes sense for each one. All those still make sense to keep it 1,000. The rest of them made it up a little bit.
Okay, anybody have any specific questions on the insurance symbols? Otherwise, I would entertain a motion to approve the workers' comp at 219,852, the liability policy at 161,458, the public employee blanket at 2788, and the position bond at 691. Moved by Virginia, second by Steve. All in favor? Aye. Opposed or none, motion carried. And then hopefully we'll have the property and the storage tank hit by the December 19th. If not, we'll have to work something else out. Okay. Item 11, consider purchases of unspent 2023 funds. I believe Ed's gonna discuss that a little bit.
yes, I'll start out, and I have with me Josh Risty. Josh is our public information officer / tourism representative, and shortly after I started, I sat down with Josh, and seeing as how his agency is attached to the administrator's office as far as oversight, and we talked about things, and I asked Josh to sort of change his focus a little bit and spend more time working with department heads, and crafting messages and issues that are coming up within the department, so that there is information out to the public to reflect that, and the public become better aware of that. And he has certainly done that, works with the department heads, attends the department head meetings, and ideas. Plus, he's still out there doing his tourism related stuff. If you visit the Kewaunee County.com site, you'll see a lot of his work is showing up there. But I asked Josh to take a look at his inventory of equipment and things that potentially he might need, because we were not going to spend the money that had been budgeted, largely because of the changeover that occurred, and also the health insurance. So we made a decision not to look for equipment in the 2024 budget, but we were going to appear as we are today to talk about getting some equipment for Josh that he needs to go forward. Some of it is he's using his own equipment right now. And what we would ask then is that we would be able to use some of the unspent dollars in the 2023 budget to accomplish that. And Josh, you do have a handout.
I do, yeah.
Would you
Yeah,
mind getting that around?
Yeah.
And I'm gonna let Josh explain that, the equipment request, and why he would.
I only have 10, I'm sorry, I'm not certain.
Just make sure the committee gets. Yeah.
Okay, I'll just someone does along.
Yeah, I can, everybody.
So it's essentially things that are, just for day-to-day work. The biggest one is the second microphone. We have, when I started and Scott was here, we tried to keep it as tight as possible to get off the ground. But I'm doing things with Renee Koenig for EW Extension and doing some human services videos, trying to get the word out about their volunteer program for the drivers that drive people to doctors' offices. And a lot of these need more than one microphone. So I have, Renee's asked me to do things with 2 people and I can't right now. So that's by far the biggest one. The second one is replacing a GoPro camera that we have, I think the world's oldest still living GoPro that is kind of reached end of life as well. The batteries are different. The system, I mean, everything is different about it. It's a 4 and we're up to an 11. A hard drive to back everything up. Right now, I don't have a backup. So if my hard drive would go down on my computer or something, I would lose all the video, all the brochures I've done for different places, all the stuff that we put on the social media. And then the last one is just a pair of headphones, which is one of the things that, you know, I was talking about that I've been using on my own, but that's to monitor audio with the camera, audio when I'm editing, that kind of thing. So it's pretty functional as well, pretty neat as well. So these were both, like Ed said, the one-time purchase this year that we had funds for, and they'll pay dividends for 10 years. You know, they'll be used. It's not like this is going to have to be purchased every year. It should be good for quite a long time now.
I guess, any questions that, you could answer on that?
The roll's about $1,200 is all in the budget.
Are these coming out of budget?
It would be the PIO tourism
That's
budget.
in the 20, funds are in the 23 budget, but just not spent.
Right,
Right.
that's right.
Unspent money.
How much money is in the unspent fund?
You get that many?
Or projected, I guess, would be a better.
And bring the budget up a year to date with PIO. 2023 budget would be 89,007, year to date 56 on IT year to date through October. 6,000 a month for that, you know, 56, another 12. You know, we will close to 10,000. That's not even looking at the rest of the administrative. Yeah, I was a part of it.
Other questions on that issue?
I'll make a motion to recommend the, unspent funds to go to pay for the equipment as presented.
Second with Steve. Any questions? All in favor, say aye. Aye, opposed, hearing none, motion carried. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
All right. Item 12, repair and replacement on the jail camera system. We have all kinds of people here.
Well, that,
Talk about that.
oh, that's on the jail
So
camera.
I can start the conversation and I'll kind of be dovetailing at the rock. Yeah, this initially came about, we've got, of course, in our current jail, the way it's set up, we rely on our camera system, right? We do not have active observation in our linear setting. We've talked about this many times. So we rely on that passive, right? The camera system to be able to monitor and allow the jailer, the dispatcher jailers to be able to monitor our cameras. Where we're at, and we've been for a bit, is that we have a server that's functioning, but it's end of life, just like all this other electronic equipment, right? So what it'll literally do is just shut down. So many times, you know, I've been up there, chief deputy, where the jailer's like, oh, camera system's on reboot, and they have to fire it back up. So it's basically at a point where it's failing. That's the initial, that's the need, that's the absolute here and now that we've got to have a consistently operating jail camera system. So what we're talking about there is what's called the server, right? The cameras are all fine. It's just the server. It's the computer that drives all this. And because you're talking about video data, there's, you know, these are substantial servers. These aren't your, you know, your typical household PC. These have to be, you know, robust servers. So we knew that we had to redo that. That's something that's, you know, not a large expense, something that we've been going forward with. However, then in talking with our IT department, Ross, he said we may have an opportunity to address other issues that we have across the county in regards to camera monitoring, other systems such as the courthouse. So the jail camera system, this server would be specific to, of course, my budget. However, there's other things that we touch in this request in regards to courthouse, which falls under a different budget. And then the conversation about the need for cameras at the admin center. This has been one of these long-standing issues that we've been revisiting about security at this complex, as well as down by Human Services and Public Health. And the idea in this request is let's try to capture that so we can try to build out and start to add some security for those staff members down in those buildings. So again, it's kind of a tiered thing. The absolute here and now, and what we're concerned with is the failing server for our jail cameras. However, we have an opportunity to be able to maybe capture a couple of the issues with this request. So that part I'll turn over to Ross.
So when we talk to Martin Security, which is the company that basically handles all of our security for the courthouse and the jail, I've requested that we look at the current courthouse system, which is starting to get very close to end of life for its server. And what if we were to combine a server for those two locations and put them all together? We're not replacing any cameras. All the cameras have been done over time. We've replaced cameras with HD cameras. So what they did is they put together a proposal to put one server together that would handle all of the jail and all of the courthouse together. And along with that, I also asked as I'll call it Amendment C, what would it cost to add 4 cameras to this building and the public or human services and public health building? Because we have no security in any of these buildings. We have a lot of clients that come into these buildings. There has been some in recent times, some, I won't call them threats, but things where not so nice things have been said, and you know, we've taken precautions in those type of arenas, but we have no way of really monitoring these buildings. So I asked as an amendment, what would it cost to put 4 cameras basically at all 4 entrances of this building and that building? So 4 extra cameras. So what you see on the proposal is I think it's around the $6,000 for that. We don't have to do that. It was just something that I asked to start moving forward, more looking at security for our buildings. But again, I just asked that we looked at, you know, combining the servers since the server for the courthouse is getting close to end of life as well.
What was the 6,000, Ross? That was for the 4 cameras?
That would be 4 cameras for this building and that building. There's 4 entrances total for human services. And
did you handle that proposal?
No, I did not.
Then they don't know.
They don't have a proposal. Okay, I will get you a proposal.
So that quote, so the quote, if everybody has quote 31,880, if that's not the one that they were provided?
I'm not sure what was put in the
It's not
agenda.
in our package.
No, the quote's not.
In the meeting on Monday, I said I didn't put it in there because what I heard and what came forward was different.
Okay. No, makes sense.
So in addition to what you've heard so far, Judge is also here and covered under this line item in the agenda would also be a request that Judge has right on.
I also brought Becky with me too. So, courtroom 2, for the AVs, that's way it's set up. In courtroom 1, we have these nice monitors and a nice Crestron to set up like for Zoom hearings and this sort of thing. And it works great in courtroom 1. Courtroom 2, we basically took leftovers and spare parts and put that all together, and courtroom 2 really doesn't work. So I want to get courtroom 2 set up so we can do the same kinds of things we do in courtroom 1. And you'll say, well, Judge, there's only one judge you can find. Yes, that's true. However, I do have visiting judges coming fairly regularly. And we also have our family court commissioner that holds hearings there. And increasingly, I'm using that for not just parties. We have attorneys appearing remotely. We have parties appearing remotely. We have witnesses appearing remotely, doctors appearing remotely. This is just how we're able to function. More and more, it's harder, you know, as you know, attorneys are less and less, if you can believe it, it's harder to find attorneys. And one way we entice them to come is if we allow them to appear remotely. So I want to get courtroom 2 set up. Because when I have a conflict, Judge Ehlers, and typically Judge Ehlers and Judge Weber from Door County come on down, and to have that ability in courtroom 2 would be fantastic. So Ross did get a quote from, I can't remember the name of the company, it's a Heartland or something on that order, for about $20,000 to set up courtroom 2.
And so courtroom 1, when we use them in there, Judge is gracious enough to be running it now, but it's one login. He is logging in through the Crestron, which brings up the video, the courtroom audio. It's wonderful. Courtroom 2, we have to have the court official sign in up on their desktop, which ties up one of their screens. If it's a visiting judge, we as clerks are running it. So then there is the laptop, which is, to have the camera view of just the gallery area. Then we have to also dial in with the phone, so we have audio. If we don't want the placket on the side there where it says who's all there and if anyone's messaging, then technically the clerk would still have to log in on their own computer to keep that from the public view. So at a minimum, we have 3 different logins going just to make it work. So
What
it's
she's,
quite tedious.
what she's explaining is Ross took a bunch of parts and wires and computers and jimmied it all together.
Made it work. instead
It
of-
works, but it literally takes us 10-15 minutes to get the darn thing up and running, and then when it fails, we gotta turn it all off, start it over again. And like I said, it's cords and wires and leftover computers and actually, it's the old monitors that were my courtroom that we replaced, and they stuck them in there. And they're freaking not as big and not as nice, so we basically get a couple monitors like this up there, and get the system all working, so it works.
So I guess I understand the problem that, you know, we've got antiquated bandaged together equipment. But now we've got a budget, so it's unbudgeted. Where's the money coming from?
Well, that's what I sent to Paul and Ed to sort of figure that out. We do have,
We should have budgeted for this stuff if we knew.
we
it
do,
needed
there is a
replacement.
budget out there for courtroom AV,
You said Ross had a quote?
20,000.
Didn't say that either.
That does not include the jail
No.
though, because your servers and all that is separate from what we're talking about.
Correct.
Okay.
There is an AVI fund which covers courtroom audio visual systems. We put about 6,000 levy in there that covers routine stuff. I think we priced the biggest system parts 2 or 3 years ago. So there shouldn't be much, and Ross would have to confirm this, but there shouldn't be much that needs to be replaced now. So if they're balancing there, I think with the balance from 2023 plus the 6,000 levy for 2024, it should be darn close to 20,000 off the top of my head. So it could come out of there. My question is, are we taking everything out of there and now when we have a maintenance issue, one or both of them, are we now lacking funds? And that was a question that hasn't been answered yet. This is going to be in 2024, right? Because you're not going to get this done before the end.
No, it would probably be.
Okay. So this isn't an urgent right now, have to need it, but I think the question today was, is this something worth going forward with? And there are funds in the AVI system. If not, then we could cover a little more contingency if we needed. I'd have to look at what that quote is exactly. And then have to look at what the exact balance is going into next year. And if that doesn't cover it, then there'd be a contingency request.
So we're not actually voting on recommending this purchase to the board yet, or we're just giving direction right now?
Without a quote in front of us,
Right,
I wouldn't vote on it.
Do a quote, but, maybe. What I have is for about 20,176. Oh, you did the mark one.
What John is saying. I realized that it was not in the packet. I mean, I don't know if we're looking at making a decision today or if this was something, if you want. Um. As you could tell, this stuff is not cheap. The servers these days are not, they're not made, or they're designed more as not hardware devices, more software driven devices and things like that. So they don't make the kind of system that we have now. Again, all I basically asked Martin to do is if one system is at end of life and one is almost at end of life, what can we do to replace both of these systems?
If it would help the committee, I would sort of recommend that if we put this back on for the December 19th meeting and have the time for Paul and I and Judge and all the players here sit down and put together a more, coordinated effort, so you have a full idea of what you're dealing with, and then we can also come up with a financing, remedy for this as well.
Yeah, the judge's equipment's not in this.
No, mine's right out.
And you got a quote from who? And is there somebody other than Martin we can get some quotes? I mean, there's a lot of money. I would think we'd be able to get a competitive quote possibly.
Possibly, I guess I'll turn it back to the sheriff's department. Martin's been somebody that's been,
Or that's what contract we've been working with.
I agree completely. We could put it out there. We could look at, okay, let's make sure that we're getting the best bang for our buck. The one thing we have to realize, and we've run into this in the past, where we start to piecemeal services, as we said, the cameras are solid.
I didn't work on that equipment. That's not mine.
That's the thing we have to always be concerned with, is all of a sudden we stand up a unit from another provider that we're gonna interface with somebody else's equipment. And now we're, 10 years of pointing fingers. Not to say that that would happen. Most of the stuff you should have is based on a standard, right? No different than, a pair of tires, whatever. They should integrate. So I completely agree that we should be looking and seeing what we can find for best bid. That's just the piece of the puzzle we need to consider, and making sure it does interface. And we're not going to have this, well, it's not our fault, it's your fault, blah, blah, blah. Because we do want this to be something that's going to be solid for, what do we say, Ross, some of this stuff? 5 to 8, 5 to
5 to 8 years. And I would completely agree. I mean, that, there are other companies other than Martin, but Martin is just who we've integrated with for many, many years. They've been a really good partner over the years. I'm not saying that we shouldn't switch. And then I think our due diligence would be to go out and get multiple quotes on this. I just don't know where we're sitting with the jail, having, sometimes the system goes down and it could be down for a week, and and then it comes back up. So it's kind of one of those crucial things where in our meeting with the sheriff's department, I didn't know exactly where we're at with timing here as far as what we need to get put back into place.
Well, I would say it's pretty critical by the sounds of it. And the courtroom, those items there, I mean, some of these other things, upgrades to the admin building, I think those need to be looked at down the road and specifically budgeted for. The rest of the money, you're gonna have money within your budget then, between carryover and 24?
We'll take this other fund balance. Yes, because of the staffing issue, he's gonna have 6 digits of leftover fund. They'll go into the fund balance and take it out of the fund balance. There's not an issue that way. And for 88,000, we shouldn't even be talking about contingency. Now, just your part was failing. The rest was possible add-ons and improvements. So is waiting until the next meeting feasible for a system that's failing?
I mean, we've been dealing with for, some time. And again, that just goes to, again, how frugal we try to be. We don't right over the minute something happens, say, okay, replace everything. We try to work through these things. Our staff is great at saying, okay, how can we remedy it? What can we do to get it back up online? We work with Ross and Kevin. So we'll continue to do that. I don't want to put anybody under that kind of dire pressure. We'll do what we have to keep those camera systems up. If at some point in time, it's all of a
Down
sudden
for a
down,
week?
right?
I'm hearing down for a week. That
Down
doesn't
and doesn't
sound
come
good
back
in the
up.
jail.
It's not.
So what could we do to address the immediate needs then of the jail? The dollar amount is how much?
So, Lieutenant Van Aram did a follow-up, because when Martin provided this, it was kind of all bundled. And so we said, let's parcel this out, because we again have the here and now, and we have the down the road. So it looks like just our system, when we peel away the other piece of it, he is to be around 53. Broken down in that.
It's not, it's all, yeah, one big lump.
Right.
Scary numbers in the bottom. So 53,000 is approximately what you are looking at to fix the immediate needs on the failing camera system in the jail.
Correct.
And that money is well within his budget.
Well, this isn't gonna happen in 2023, so either we play this back and forth game, or we just realize that he's got 2023 funds that are gonna go into the fund balance of the 2023. We'll take a little bit out to cover the 53,000 or 80, whatever it is. 88, if you go with the full package.
I mean, it may not be spent now, but
We can do a carryover for that and say, put it aside for next year, like we do at the end of the year with other.
I'm just looking at expediting if the finance committee is willing to go authorize that, recommend that to the board that this could begin as after like the 19th is our meeting? 19th board meeting. versus waiting and all of a sudden we're into the middle of January before we're gonna get this kicked off.
Well,
I mean, the other part of this that we can do, yes, that's, you know, the whole camera, but again, I want to give this group the comfort level. It's not like we completely rely on it, right? But what happens is we have to augment it. So when they go down, all that means is we've got to run our folks around, you know, additional. Again, you're talking about active, observation, passive. So yeah, when our guys are doing warrant entries and they're doing bookings, when they're helping, you know, dispatch, right? Then we completely rely because our jailer is no longer in the jail. They're helping. We've had that talk about the whole jailer dispatcher. So we rely on them. However, that being said, to give this group the time you need, because I don't want to, you know, put anybody against the wall, that what we'll do when it happens is we just augment, right? So then we just say, okay, we've got to increase our active rounds, our active observation, and do the best we can. So by no means don't think that I'm coming here today saying, you know, right here, right now, we've been dealing with this for a bit, and we continue to deal with it for a bit, so you folks have what you need to make this happen in a comfort level. I don't want
to have more than at our next meeting.
That's what you want us to do. We can put together the whole package and try and get the breakdowns that you need to.
as long as we're doing this, there's been discussion at Human Services and Public Health about the security down in that level of this building. I think Matt has even addressed the issue with the staff at Human Services. So I think that's another important item. So I'm thinking that we should try to look at all this and get it all done at once. And if you guys could come up with how we're going to finance it, either, you know, with excess funds from the 23 budget, some stuff that's budgeted into 24, I think that would, if we can come up with financing,
There's a
make it reasonable.
simple answer to that. The sheriff's department won't have that much, or within the general fund, absolutely. I'll discuss this a little bit in the next item. But yeah, there'll be enough in 23, bring forward to 24, or the full 88 if that 81,000 if that's the direction.
Plus 20.
Plus
judge. For the judge, so the judge.
And we
December or
have,
January?
and Paul may have said this when I was.
Oh, yeah. But
We
we haven't had the discussion yet about what's going to be the next few years. So between those two, yes, the funding is there. The funding isn't the hard part of this one. What are we looking at? When is going to be replaced?
So if the committee feels more comfortable, we'll get a kind of a funding plan and look at that at the 19th meeting and take action then, recommend that action to the board for work to be done probably as soon as possible. Okay. Any other discussion on that?
And have some more quotes, hopefully. Yes. Yeah. We're probably gonna need to refresh this one.
Well, this, I mean, if we're gonna have to go out for bid, that probably will not happen by the 19th, but I mean, if you're asking us to go out for bid, we can do that.
You could just get a quote though, without an official, like, putting it out for bids.
Yeah, I would have to lean on the sheriff's department as far as security, companies out there that would potentially provide. I know we went through some of this with the jail project and some of the security companies that would have bid on that project. They could possibly come in and bid on this. So we would have to reach out to them and have that done.
I think the other one that would be valid, that we can look at is maybe Camera Corner. They've done some work in this realm.
This is a known system. Are you satisfied with it?
Oh,
When you
absolutely.
go out for bid, get something else. There's always that question.
Interfacing, like we were saying.
But you get some lower number, then you can beat them up.
Martin was the company that was used and was bid in the courthouse renovation project. And, that's how they got their footing. They were the low bidder at the time when that project was completed for when the courthouse expansion was done. So, and again, for good reason, you kind of stay with the same firm. Obviously, if they're out of line, then you have to look differently. But when you start mixing systems, you do have some problems there as well.
As far as the judge's project, right now Heartland is basically the overseer of all the courtrooms and the AV that are in those courtrooms. And all we're doing with that project is adding something, a portion that is missing in courtroom 2 to make it near courtroom 1. So.
I can wait, so don't put pressure on my project.
Well, we'll, spend the time between now and the 19th to put together a, more concise plan for you, and again, Paul will put together the numbers and give you the comfort level there, so, I think that's maybe the.
And that 19th is what, 5:30?
5 o'clock board, so it should be 4:30, possibly 40, you know, much of a tight on.
But I think it's the security issue is important, especially in the jail and the park and in this building.
And this
We need to
system,
do something.
yeah, and this system, what's nice about this is that it's beefy enough that we can add other buildings to it, because I know we've talked about highway department. In the summertime, they have extended hours where, some of the female staff are there for after hours where, they're going out to the car in the dark and things like that. So there's some things there that we need to start looking at all of our buildings security wise. I know Dave from Parks talked about potentially having some security out at the fairgrounds building. So when renters come in, there was damage done, but we couldn't figure out who did the damage because there's no cameras that are recording anything, those type of things as well. But this system is beefy enough that it can accommodate some of that as well.
Okay, sounds like a plan. So we will take this up at the December 19th meeting for a recommendation to the board. Okay. Do we want to set a time now for that December? Is 5 or 4 o'clock an hour be enough with the insurance and this issue, or half hour enough?
The insurance would just be 2 of them, that should be pretty straightforward, that won't take much time, the question is this one. Will half an hour be enough for this? Should, 'cause
I would think it would be. 4:30. 4:30 then. Okay, 19th at 4:30.
Never be around.
Thank you.
Be seated.
All right, moving on to the next item on the agenda, item 13, discuss savings and future large capital improvement projects. And Paul, we're just gonna have a discussion on this now, and Paul's gonna lead that.
Yeah, quickly, so. Remember before budget season, I made a comment that we can more aggressively save for projects. At that time, the jail project was, voted down. The highway project is still somewhere in the future. And I said, because of some comments are made during the jail vote about, we don't want to spend all of our fund balances. I said, we can do a better job specifically saving for those. So this is the first glimpse at it. We don't have to do anything today. This will actually come back the same time we do our any remaining contingency or any transfer to the debt service fund that we usually do in about April, once the year is closed and all our year-end entries are done. But here I have an example. If this had been in place for 2022, we go through the calculation. I have the top half, and we have about 619,000 available to do that. Right now, that's just going into the general fund balance. And again, this is only looking at the general fund. Maybe there's some stuff in other funds, maybe not. That would have to be a separate discussion. But there's $600,000 that's going into the general fund. The fund balance policy says we should have 25 to 35% in the general fund unassigned balance. We have currently 62%, so well more than we need. We have a couple other items within the fund balance for vehicle damage and contingency, and those are also at the levels they need to be. The list on the bottom, for those of you who have been on this committee since I've been here, when we had leftover contingency, we went down the list of what should we do with that. And there are 7 items there. Just about every one of them is either taking care of itself or has been completed where we don't need it anymore. The 2 remaining now are actually transfer the capital improvement for specific projects, including the jail. Highway wasn't even, I don't think it was on the radar when I first wrote this up. But we have excess general fund. We have surplus every year. We have excess in the fund balance. We don't just need to keep building that. However, we have identified a need to do something about the jail, even though the specifics aren't defined yet. We know that the highway's on the horizon. We know we have annual surplus coming in. Why not specifically save it for that? So my suggestion is go through this calculation, which I have to refine a little bit. I'd have to write down say, here's how we're gonna calculate it. I'll have that by the time we do this in April. And say, okay, we have 619,000, why don't we put all of that into a pot of money to save for those bigger projects, because we don't need it anywhere else. If we do, it's not been identified. We have our fund balances and everything else at the levels we need to be. You didn't have that 8 years ago. Well, now we're in the point where we can't. And actually, if you read the fund balance, which is one of the handouts, there's a section discussing what if we get above that level? Well, then we should decide, here's why we're doing it. And a bigger part of that too is to explain to the taxpayers why we have a balance here. We have a purpose for it, rather than just letting our balances grow. This is a good thing to do. Now is the time to do it. And we have the needs identified that are going to come up in the next few years. So again, that's all for looking through. The other thing I have there is just showing what the fund balance is in the general fund. That's measured. The highway happens to be on there. Now, if you look at the highway, it's a good example. The highway has above the threshold fund balance. You gotta remember that the highway department also has other things that are defined in that. You know, winter maintenance goes up and down quite a bit, actually. We have projects such as bridges that aren't a part of the routine annual budget process, and they're expensive. So that's one of those funds that should be looked at closer. But just because we're building a highway building doesn't mean we have to look at the highway fund balance. That's there for a different purpose. And I think once we identify the fact that we need to hold some of that for winter, because we have good years, we have bad years, we have awful years as far as snowfall. And we know we have bridges and roads to Highway C, for example. I don't think our crew is doing most of it or any of that work. That's gonna have to be paid for out of that fund, but it's not from our routine, not being done by our employees. We're gonna have that funds available. So yes, it's high, but it's there for a different purpose. The general fund has the excess. This will take care of it. So no decisions now. I will bring back this in a more precise written form. I still have to work through like transfers, which ones include versus exclude. And I'll have a number calculated. At the same time, we do the any carryovers, any contingency, and any remaining or any transfer to this as well. And I aim for April with that, assuming I.
So 619,000 for 2022, for example, if we kind of use that as a model number. And we had talked about this, I don't think open meetings or whatever per se, just I've had conversation with you and the chair and everybody else. So, but like for the jail, if we're putting money aside every year in one of these special funds, and I don't know, we've got different categories, restricted, committed, assigned, that we're building that revenue going forward. I mean, we should have did that when we shot the first jail down 20 years ago, right? We know we should be putting money away. While it wouldn't be enough to fund the entire jail, it certainly is a lot of money to leverage into the new jail. So just the jail, for example, what would we consider that a restricted, a committed?
It'll be committed. The board is gonna say we're setting aside for this specific purpose. And doing that 20 years ago, 1 years probably wasn't a possibility, but I started.
Well, we weren't financially where we are now.
2015, the fund balance is low. We shouldn't be saving for a big project when we don't even have the current amount.
I forgot where we were. But we are in a good place now, which is why we can make these kind of planning things for the future. So
yeah, again, 619,000 was the number calculated for last year. I can say that number will be higher this year. I don't know how much. But if we think about what interest rates have been doing for us, and we think about the sales tax being much higher than budgeted, and things like the sheriff can't staff the positions we were hoping to staff, there's going to be money left over. We'll carry forward the items we need to carry forward, like I did in calculation, and we'll have a number. It's going to be bigger than 619 by some other amount. Put that aside for the new jail, which means we borrow less, which everybody should be happy with, borrowing less for the big projects when they come up. Any questions?
Sounds like a good idea.
Okay, questions?
We'll explore this
See
further
that
as it comes
in
up.
April.
All right, thanks for that good information, Paul. Next item is vendor payments. Does anyone have any questions on vendor payments that were out there? If not, I would entertain a motion to approve the supplemental payroll as presented. Moved by Virginia, second by Steve. All in favor of approving the supplemental payroll, so you're saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, hearing none, motion carried. Any other matters come before the committee? Ed, Paul, any committee member, Mr. Chairman?
I got just a
Yeah.
question on Winter Park and the racetrack. So is Winter Park looking like we're gonna be all set?
It's, the contract is in,
The contract is out, there's been a discussion about hold harmless. And Dave has worked with the group on that. Quite frankly, there isn't a whole lot of meat out there that needs to be worked on. The Winter Park group, I think, is a little bit concerned about the fact that we expect them to hold us harmless, but we're not gonna hold them harmless. And as Dave has discovered, legally, we're not able to do that, because what that means is that as a group, we would be taking on potentially a financial burden that's unknown, and passing that along down the line to a board that has no ability to have an impact on that by making that whole harmless agreement.
What liabilities then are we holding them accountable for? Is that something could be insured?
They have insurance.
Okay, so.
We have insurance, but it's just a matter of if they do something that causes a problem, we don't want to be held liable because we've got the big
Negligence type thing.
Yeah. Right.
well, the park itself and staffing last year, the question of could they open the ski hill? Going through last year and getting ready this year, that's what the problem.
Okay, so Winter Park looks like we're gonna have a
Yeah.
smooth transition to opening.
I suppose, yeah.
Good.
They're doing a lot of the maintenance work on the lift in particular. The one staff person he has, who is now the maintenance specialist, is amazingly able to do just about anything you throw at him. So that's by and large, and being taken care of in-house by our own staff.
We did have a problem with the one lift cable. The contractor that was gonna come in to do that has since declined to do that, so it looks like our guy will be the guy that has to replace that cable, so we're waiting until we got the cable in place, and then
That's not the big lift cable, it's just the whole anchoring one of the.
Yeah.
Okay. That's not the major one. Any slope races?
Yeah, or do we have any,
Proposals?
no, and I understand Sturgeon Bay is in the same spot.
I don't think the due dates come up yet.
it hasn't. There's scuttle out there about who's this and that, and I think when push comes to shove, at the end of the day, somebody is gonna step forward. It's just, who is that going to be? It could be some of the players of the most recent promoter, or it could be somebody altogether. There's other venues that have voters that are out there and maybe looking at our site as the place that they camp out, but right now we're still without a convention.
Anything else? Okay, then our next meeting will be December 19th at 4:30, just prior to the county board. And our next regular finance meeting will be Friday, January 5th at 8:00. And having said that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn. Moved by Jeff, seconded by Virginia.